Welcome to the shop, sort of. We're out here in the driveway because Old Blue is going to get a huge upgrade today. I'm going to put on a new ladder rack that I bought from Northern Tool. And the problem is though, I don't know if it's really going to fit the way I like it, so I'm most inclined to modify it now before it's on the truck. I had a ladder rack just like this on my last truck and the truck before it. And I did some modifications in place, which included grinding and welding. And guess what? I did some really stupid stuff. And the weld spatter went down the windshield and melted my windshield. So I'm trying to prevent that now. And I'm gonna build the whole thing actually off the truck and modify it. And then just hopefully put it on in one piece when it's all done. So that's my plan. Some things I have to do though, in order to get started, are to remove my little bed cover here. It's been great and all that, but it's not really compatible with the rack system. So I need to get all that removed, get all my tools out, and come on down here. You'll notice I got the trailer hooked up, and my idea here is that I'm gonna measure the inside shape of the bed of the truck, and I'm gonna take some scrap 2x material and build that shape here. So I have a little simulation of my truck on the trailer because the trailer is pretty flat and straight and all that. And I can actually build the rack right here where it's easy to reach. And if I need to cut anything and weld, like for example, the biggest thing I think could be a problem is that the rack is gonna be taller than I want it to be. And my truck is already taller than I want it to be. And I don't want it to be really difficult to reach up and put material on the rack, like ladders and boards are the two most common things that I carry. And so I might shorten the rack by taking 2 or 3 inches out of the vertical tubes. And I don't think that'll be terribly difficult, but it would be really difficult on the truck. So I can make a big mess right here and grind and weld with no consequence, and then just lift it up in one piece, and it should bolt right up and fit perfect. At least that's my hope. So here I go. I got all my tools out of my truck, which is really nice. It actually didn't even take that long. And I got my old bed cover removed, which was actually also super easy to take out. And I took measurements for the 4 corners and how wide and how long is the bed. Now, if you didn't know, this is something that can really mess you up. These beds, the 2 side bed rails are not parallel to each other, at least in a Dodge. This is a 04 Ram, and it is tapered. It's actually narrow in the back at the tailgate and wider up at the cab. By a lot, like 3 or 4 inches. Like you would never think that. Like why would they do that? Who knows? But it is, and this has got to fit it perfectly. So I'm going to build a little jig on the trailer here that represents that exact shape and size so that I can bolt the rack together in that exact shape and size. Since this is a one size fits all rack sort of thing, like it fits any full size truck, I think, the legs are going to be angled wider where the truck is wider and be more narrow where it's more narrow. And that will cause the rear of the rack to stand taller because of physics and geometry. But anyway, I don't want that. I don't want it to be or even to appear taller in the back. So I might have to make the back legs shorter by a little bit more than the front legs. If I go to shorten all 4 legs, then if I shorten them the same, then I'll still have this kilter built into it that I don't like. So I'll have to try to account for that. But I gotta say, working on this flat surface of the bed of my trailer is a perfect place to be able to pull measurements. I mean, it's gonna be so easy because I can just plop it on here and measure from the wood up to the rack, and I can see the height. So I can really tell if it's pitching to the front or the back. It should be pretty easy. I'm gonna apply my numbers to these boards and screw them down now. It's taken us a little bit of time to assemble the rack here, and we already made some modifications by shortening the legs by a little bit. And that was a little bit tricky, actually. This thing is kind of difficult to get all the pieces together and have it not fall over. I really think having a couple of guys helping was really good. Doing it by yourself could be actually very difficult and probably frustrating, especially if you try to do it on the truck. Now I know probably nobody else is gonna be building it on a trailer like I did, but it's the way I wanted to do it. So it worked out pretty nicely that we shortened the legs about 1 inch on the front and by 1.5 inches on the back because of the way that the bed is more narrow in the back It makes the angled legs stand up straighter, which makes it taller. And in the front, they're squattier and it's shorter. It totaled to be about an inch difference in height over the whole length of this thing. It's about 13 feet long. And I just want it to be flat. So, you know, is that so much to ask for? We did have to re-drill all the holes though for these big bolts, and there's 8 of them, I think. And it was a lot of work to mark and drill those holes. And then we used a step bit, which allowed us to get the size up to, I don't know, maybe 5/8. It's a pretty big hole. That'd be a very difficult thing to drill out without a step bit. So that's a really awesome tool to use for that. Right now we are ready to test fit it on the truck. So far it hasn't been on the truck. And if it looks nice and it's basically sitting perfectly, I'm gonna bring it back down to the trailer, and then I'm gonna do a little bit of welding. Some of the connections are not exactly as strong as I would like. And I'm gonna add, I think, another crossbar right about here in the front of the rack where there's a pretty big gap and there's no crossbar that comes with it. I think I want one there. And right now would be the time to do it before it's on the truck. Now I'm seeing the rack on the truck. I'm actually really happy. I really love the way that it looks. There are a few things I'm trying to make up my mind about, like for example, this hangs over the windshield pretty far. I think farther than I'm used to from my old truck. All right then. I don't know, this might bother me. I can see it. I mean, I know it's there, but I can see it. I don't know. Tough call. And I'm trying to decide if I like it or not, because if I don't, I'm gonna cut it off and shorten it up. That's on the list of maybes to do. Otherwise, I am gonna add some welding at the top of this right here, where these tubes come together. It's not the best connection in my view here. And if you put a lot of weight on the front of the rack, which I do when I load my 24-foot long walkboards, then it might be prone to wiggling there, and I don't like that. So I'm just gonna weld it, no big deal. That is about it. I really like this rack where I can hook lots of straps on all these little things everywhere, almost anywhere you look. And that's important because you're guaranteed to need a place to put a strap hook all the time. So overall, very happy. I love the way it's shortened up and the clearance that I have over the cab. And the fact that it's running true and flat parallel to this line right here, this body line, and the sticker there on the side of the door. So that all is making me happy. Since the test fitting went pretty well, it's time to pull it off, set it back on the trailer on our little jig, and I can make all my welds and stuff like that, and then it'll be ready to finally place for good. The day is almost over, and I'm still working on this rack. I'm really trying to decide how overboard I'm gonna go. But what I'm doing now is welding the places that I think failed on my first rack and I ended up welding later on. And I'm adding a crossbar where the front of the rack has a really big gap in the crossbars. I think too big of a gap. And I'm trying to prep all the surfaces that I'm welding really well with a little sandblaster that I got. And after I'm welding, where it's burning through the paint on the back side of the metal, I'm sandblasting that away as well so that I can lay some fresh spray paint on it and it will stick really well and have a good surface, and hopefully the paint won't peel off. So this is a whole ton of work. Now I know why the fully welded racks are really expensive, and I'm wondering whether or not I'm even saving money by doing this, but I do know that I am doing it, so I'm committed and I have to finish. All right, well, I guess I'm done welding and painting here. I just about ran out of paint. And anyway, I'm just tired of working on this thing. So I'm gonna call it done. I gotta clean up all my tools and get some buddies over here so I can get it set back on the truck. All right, let's do it. Brett, thanks for the help putting the rack on here. This thing is actually super heavy. I don't know how heavy it is. At least 200 pounds, I guess. And I'm actually kind of happy that it's heavy because the back of my truck is really too tall for this. And I've noticed I haven't really seen many other trucks like this, like 2500 or 3500 with a rack on it because they are tall, probably. So that's one really certain reason why lowering it made a lot of sense. I gotta say, I love the way this rack is built where there's an adjustable slot where the legs tilt, because that makes a perfect place to hook a strap, even multiple straps per leg. And trust me, I hook so many things over this rack with straps that I need all of the hooking places I can get. I even use the factory J-bolts here to attach the rack to the bed. I don't really love those for a couple reasons. One is that they stick up like this. I would saw them off if I was gonna keep them. But also I think there's better security in bolting straight through, so I'm gonna do that later and add it to it. Also, I didn't get a lot of footage of me shortening up the front of the rack, but I did take about 7 inches off the length on the front, and then I fully welded those parts together instead of just using one bolt that holds 3 pieces coming into one connection. Although that wasn't too bad, I like the weld pretty good. It's really dusty right now, in case you're wondering. This has sand all over it. I'm just gonna hose the whole truck and everything with a pressure washer right now to get it cleaned up, but that is basically it. I wanna say I'm really happy with the result. I'm happy that it all looks right, that I have the right clearance above the cab, that it's not too tall, it wasn't too expensive, and it didn't take me too much time. I bet a full day, really, of cutting and modifying, welding, repainting, and installing it. So that's really what it took. And for $1,000 to end up with a rack like this, that took me 15 years on my last rack to make all these modifications to, because like I put it on the truck straight out of the box and made small modifications like over a long period of time. So I'm really happy to be having all that done and not to be working on it on the truck like I did before. Hey, thanks for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed it. I sure did. And I'll catch you next time. Ooh. My truck just made a weird sound. Did you hear it? Check 2 2. Hey, hey. Because this is a one side,